So we'll go ahead and get started. Just for anybody that hasn't made it yet, or if you know of somebody that's joining late, these sessions will be recorded. The plan is starting next week, so Monday or Tuesday of next week. You'll get a link back to this recording as well as any other dealer materials you might need. So we'll have a brochure planned, we'll have some other videos planned, we'll have some other documentation planned. So if you weren't planning on seeing this today and you had to dip out for any reason, or you know somebody's going to miss it, don't worry. A link to this recording will be sent out next week. So my name is Vincent Hughes. I am the digital marketing manager for previously CADLink, now Fiery Specialty Production. Today we're going to go over the Digital Factory version 11.1 updates. There's some pretty exciting new features in it and some visual changes that I think a lot of people will be really excited to see. We're going to go through it with myself, with Mike Jamchenko, who is the head of new business development. We also have Ted McCluskey, who is a color specialist, and Chris Rennie, who is a one of our programmers for the update. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mike.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking an hour out of your busy schedules to attend this session and learn more about an exciting new release that we have coming up in the very, very near future. It's always really nice to see all the familiar names in attendance from all our dealers worldwide. So again, welcome, and hopefully we'll provide you with some very useful, valuable, and exciting information over the next hour, and we promise we won't keep you any longer than that. So without further ado, we'll proceed and go ahead with the presentation. So as you all know, in May of this year, we're really happy to release Digital Factory version 11. And the results were outstanding. The feedback we received from the field was extremely positive. It showed in record revenue numbers in a variety of specialty application printing areas, specifically in direct-to-film, which obviously right now is the hot new market still and still growing strong. It really further reinforced our market position within these spaces. And the feedback we got, as I mentioned, was just superb from dealers, manufacturing partners, and most importantly, the people who use our software every day to run their businesses. So it was very positive. We decided to keep the momentum going and really focused in more on a few additional features. Digital Factory version 11.1 is a dot release. It's not a full version release, and as such, we didn't load it up with a variety of fluffy features. We really focused in on some things that key stakeholders have been asking for a little while now, and I'm sure you'll be quite happy. We're going to focus on those today as well. Important to note, version 11 was back in May, as I mentioned. Really important to remember some of the key features that are in 11 that we continue to promote, create videos and social posts on. And we're not going to go through them today because we did in May, but certainly I think it's worthwhile to take approximately 30 seconds just to go over some of the features that are in 11. And then we'll go into the 11.1 new features. But definitely, obviously, the single pass underbase and highlight white is industry leading and unique with us, patent pending as well. Then, of course, we extended our workflows into e-commerce platform integrations, and a lot of additional automation tools were included at that time. That are included in a variety of our packages, including the variable data wizard. Some of the print labels and QR code functionality was extended. In direct-to-film, particularly the INRIP ink order setting controls. And then, obviously, many of our end users are always using other design applications. So it is in everybody's benefit for us to integrate as closely with them as possible. So we have all the latest integrations with Corel and the Adobe products as well. Now, let's move on to the exciting stuff that we're all here for. Digital Factory version 11.1, the rollout timetable for us. We'll be in development team is in last stages of Q&A. In fact, it's pretty much completed. They're just putting together all the packages right now. We're going to have them in the next day. We're going to have them by end of this week. We like to take the weekend and a couple of days to give them one last sanity check before we put them online, but they will be online on October 4th. And the Marcom rollout will start at that point as well. And we'll go through a little bit of the support that we're going to be doing in terms of outreach and dealer resources as well a little later. The outreach campaign via email blasts and via digital marketing that Vincent is responsible for, who you just saw, will run, and social platforms will run for approximately 6 weeks. We're really pleased today to have two very important people who will take a little bit of time, so you don't have to listen to me the whole time, to go through some of our features. Ted McCluskey and Christopher Rennie are two key team members that we have on our development team, and are responsible for many of the features that you see within the Digital Factory version 11.1 release, and as well as many of the new drivers and color profiles that are included in that package as well. So what we're going to go through today, I'm going to pass it off to Ted in a second, but we're going to focus really, because we only have an hour, on the 5 key features that we think are really important and very exciting for you. The automatic job sorter enhancements that we've done for more wholesale type of jobs, for more large volume jobs. Some of the extended color chart support for creating color profiles. Some of the new color measurement device support that we have. And then really something that I'm very excited about, and I think everybody will be, I know our entire team is, our entire company is a next-gen user interface. Our product, from the feedback we've received in the field, needed a bit of a refresh from an aesthetic standpoint, just to look a little bit more modern, include different types of themes and display options. But most importantly, what we've also done as part of this next-gen UI that Christopher will talk about is basically also streamlined the way that some of the UI functions and features are presented to the end user in a more intuitive way. So it makes it even more simple than it was in the past. And then, of course, we've added a true shape nesting component to our Digital Factory version 11.1 product as well, that's included as part of our contour cutting module. So without further ado, I will introduce Ted McCluskey. And Ted, you can perhaps go over some of the first 3 features for all of our dealers.
Yep, sure. Okay, so there's a couple kind of minor feature improvements or general improvements that are with 11.1. And then the UI, obviously, which I'm not going to touch on, but Chris will. Okay, so the automatic job AJS automatic job sorter enhancements. We have, if anybody's used it before, there's a bunch of logic that you can assign to jobs incoming and grouping, and that's kind of what AJS does. It's a hot folders, but you can do everything. So we've just added a bit more functionality to the job header aspect of the CAD link actions, or fiery actions, I guess in this case, which are controlled through the file name itself. So when you integrate with an e-commerce, web platform, the file at the end of that process will have a name. You often, it would say something like, black shirts for Gildan 5000, and then that gets processed by the black t-shirt queue, et cetera. The 2 new enhancements are kind of direct to film specific for them, but could be used up elsewhere, but certainly for direct to film. We've added in 2 new, 2 new sets of syntax for the header. One to allow you to group jobs, and you can control how this grouping works. So there's a way to determine which order jobs enter AJS, so you can have in the header name like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it might be, for however many jobs, and the jobs will order in that way. So this is useful because people who are making direct-to-film orders, so they're ordering 500 logos, that customer might want that all on one sheet. So you can order all of those that customer's designs and have them grouped into one job and then printed. And with this functionality, you can also have the page close automatically. This is so you can keep the orders separate and do separate print jobs for different customers, and not have to organize that manually. It can be automated with the job header file. On top of that, then there's just grouping, and this is just kind of a little simpler, but you can order them in whatever order you want. This could be also for customers, like customer one's going to have the first 10, and you want those to be all in the same spot, and then customer 2 has the next 10, next 20. So that can all be automated, and that's the AJS updates. It's just some more functionality to automation. For the extended color chart support, this is for profiling. So our calibrator module, PMC, print mode calibration. Up till now, we didn't support officially CMYK plus 4 spot colors. So if you have like a red, blue, orange, green, or you're looking to build, for instance, fluorescence into the process color space. There was some backdoor ways of getting this kind of to work, but it was not the greatest, not consistent. But now we do support that. So CMYK plus 4 is supported, and we also corrected a bug that was with the processing options, which was underbase using the spot colors and PMC. So anyone who did that and had to, there was a workaround for that too, but you won't have to do that anymore. It's smoothed out that process. So pretty simple update there, but important nonetheless. And then the final one is the Nix Mini 3. The Nix devices are fantastic for profiling, especially direct to film, direct to garment. And they have a new device out that that's all they're selling now. That's the one they're pushing. So we support that now as well. And there's one nice little improvement with the Nix Mini 3. The Nix Mini 2 used to require a Windows COM port driver to be installed to work. And this was a little bit finicky depending on if you had Windows 10 or Windows 11. We had a way in Digital Factory to install that driver, but it was still a little bit finicky just because of the nature of how that kind of works. The Nix Mini 3 has been they upgraded on their end, and we support it. It should just be able to plug in now, and everything it needs should be good to go right off the bat. Still a great device for profiling, very cheap. Helps with the color matching in many ways. Great for direct to film, especially. I think that's it for the less exciting features. So I will pass it to Christopher for the next gen UI stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Chris, just before you start, Chris, you can grab the screen. I will give it up. But as everyone can see from Ted's comments, his primary role with Fiery here is being the lead on our color management and our color profiling and driver development. So we're really focused in on making certain that we support all of the latest easy to use and affordable color management measurement devices as well, hence the relationship with Nix. Many of our users and dealers use the Nix devices. I know that in North America, they sell for under $100 US. I believe it's the same in euros and even less in pounds. But nevertheless, the takeaway is that they're very affordable, very easy to use. We have complete integration with them, and they're incredibly useful for tweaking and creating profiles for the variety of different types of films or substrates that you may be using. And you don't have to necessarily be a color expert in order to create these profiles. We have some wizards that walk you through quite nicely. So thanks very much, Ted, for all the work you do on the color side of things. And we're going to move on now, as Ted said, to Chris Rennie, who's responsible for this wonderful new, who led the project on this wonderful new user interface that we have. And we'll show it to you right now. We call it Next Gen UI. So go ahead, Chris.
All right, thanks, Mike. So I'll quickly go over some of the parts of Next Gen UI that'll be different from what you're used to in the classic version. I'll start with the menu items. In the view menu, there's 2 new menu items. There's UI mode, so the user can switch between Next Gen and Classic. So to get the queue looking like you all remember, like this, if you select Classic and then restart the program, everything will go back to the old UI. Or if they select Next Gen UI, everything will update to the new one. I believe current existing customers who update will by default stay on Classic, but will be prompted and shown the Next Gen UI as an available feature. But all new customers will be given Next Gen UI by default. There's also the select theme option, where we have dark theme and light theme. For the purpose of the demo, I'll be doing dark theme, but you can switch to light theme. It looks something like this. So exactly like dark theme, just a different kind of skin to it. There's also a whole new menu. It's the layout menu. Top option is restore to default. I'll go over that a bit more. But you can now toggle any of the controls you see in the queue. So I can toggle off the control bar, the queue tabs, the reserve list, the smart bar, the preview area, until I'm left with just a list. And if I restore to default, everything comes back. So that's it for the new menu options. The toolbar works exactly the same as before. Moving on to the job list, you'll notice that everything in the job list is slightly larger. That's to help with the previews, so the user can have a kind of a better idea of see a nicer preview of every job, help to at a glance see what their jobs are. However, if they like the old version, you can go to the settings icon here and change the preview size using the slider. So you can go all the way up to as big as very big, or you can go all the way down to smaller than it was before. This would reflect something similar to the preview size before. And this is our shipping default, where it's just big enough to get a good idea of what the contents of the job are. For as far as cutting side goes, everything has stayed the same. You'll notice though that in the job list we don't have that cut stroke setup icon anymore with the 3 different colors. That's now accessed just by right-clicking the job and going cut stroke setup. It works the exact same as before. It's just a right-click option now. We found too many people were accidentally clicking it, and it was regenerating the preview every time. Over in the preview area, you'll notice that all of these icons have moved to the left. Nothing about them's changed. They've just moved. These 2 are new icons. They replaced the combo box that was here before. So before, combo box had 3 options: show print, show cut, show print and cut, depending on if your queue supported print and cuts. Now there's just the 2 options. I'll go to one where you can see them better. This toggles off the print data. This toggles off the cut data. It's a space-saving choice to make those just 2 toggle buttons. Also in the preview, by default now, the mouse wheel has been changed to scroll up and down, as opposed to zoom in and out like before. If the user holds control, the mouse wheel works exactly the same as before. And if the user likes mouse wheel default zoom, they can go to the settings button for the preview area and toggle it back on. So use mouse wheel to zoom will switch that. So mouse wheel by default zooms, and holding control will scroll up and down. They can also have a quick access to single page mode that for sheets just shows you 1 page at a time based on what you have selected. And they can toggle it off as well. So you'll notice the smart bar looks completely different from what it did before. Sorry, I'll have to give me 1 second. My fire alarm's going off.
The joys from working from home post-COVID era, I guess.
Yeah,
I think.
great.
Well, are you back, Chris?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So yeah, you'll notice the smart bar is completely different. You have the this is the queue context now. We've moved all of the edit options in the queue context to over here, actually. So in the queue tabs, you'll notice that each one has a dot, dot, dot beside it. If you click on that dot, 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 or right-click anywhere on the queue tab itself, you'll get a large dropdown that lets you change the queue import defaults. So we've updated the wording on that one. We found a lot of people who were changing the queue tab options were assuming that when they changed it, it would change every job currently in the queue. So with the import defaults wording, we're hoping that people now know at a glance that will only change the jobs coming in after the change is made. So you have the same controls here as before: print mode, print media, layout. But now the user has access to every printer option available right in this dropdown, as opposed to just the top 4. And any changes they make here will change every job coming in. And like I said before, you can access that by either pressing the 3 dots or right-clicking anywhere on the tab. Short of that, the smart bar has all the same controls as it did before. If I click on a job here, you'll see that we have the preview for the job. If I make any changes to the job and click restore job, it will restore it like before. Size and position are the same with height, scaling, rotate, crop. The options have all the same options as before as well, just laid out in a bit more of a user-friendly fashion, as opposed to before, where you guys all know they were kind of all squished together down here. If you do things to a job, such as if I make this small enough and click add copies, if more controls are added, they're added beneath the other ones. So this is the copies card. Same controls as you would get in the old one, just again, right below the current options. Short of that, the smart bar is the same as before. With the panes, sorry, I should expound on that a bit. All of these controls are now in panes. So as before, we can change the size of the reserve active. We can make the preview area larger or smaller. But something new we've added is the ability to rotate things. So if you right-click on the area between 2 panes, you can rotate or swap. If I was to swap, you can see that the reserve and the active list swap places. If I was to rotate, you can see that they've rotated to be one next to each other, so horizontal or vertical split. And if you go to restore default, that will also restore it to the default layout, which should help a lot if people manage to get themselves in a state that they can't seem to get out of. I imagine it'll be pretty common. If somebody prefers the smart bar to be down there, you can obviously rotate the panes and just move it down, and it will look the same as before, but still a bit nicer laid out. So that's it for the most part for the next-gen UI. Those are all the changes I mentioned are the functional changes. Obviously, there's been massive visual overhauls all across the board, including our, it'll be hard to notice through Teams, but even our toolbar items are drawn much better scaled. Everything looks a bit more modern. Everything lights up when you mouse over it. Basically what you'd expect from a new application. So should I move on to true shape nesting?
Yes, please.
All right. So true shape nesting is an exciting feature we have where we can now shape nest jobs that have clipping paths around them so that they can lay themselves out in the smallest possible configuration. I've prepared some examples ahead of time just to save a bit of time. This is what we got. I'll just restore the default for this and make this large. So here you can see all of these letters have clipping paths around them, just around the borders. And you can see that if you were to print this, it'd be roughly 3¼ inches tall at minimum. And these jobs are laid out with about a very tiny amount of space between them. But for the most part, if I was to nest them, this is what I would get. With true shape nesting, we can now minimize that space to be much, much smaller. In this case, that we've saved about 1 inch of media out of 3¼ inches. And that's kind of the draw of true shape nesting, is the ability to save space on the media that would otherwise be wasted. It's mostly for cutting applications, because when these are cut out, they'll be indistinguishable from these ones. And the process for shape nesting is very simple. If I wanted to shape nest the jobs up here, I could right click on the page here, and I can go to replace jobs with nested PDF. That's a new context menu option. And if I do that, all of these jobs will start ripping. And sorry, I'm in a developer queue, so never mind that. But so basically all of these jobs would start ripping, and then a pop-up would show up asking what size I wanted to shape nest. I'll show you the shape nesting settings later. But the end result of that would be this. And if I wanted to bring it, this is an example of one done at a width of 10 inches. And you can see here that it's managed to lay them out, saving as much vertical space as possible on this row. There's another option we have that comes with shape nesting, that is fill page with nested copies. So in this case, I've imported a PNG and I've applied a contour cut around it with no offset. And then I told it to shape nest it 2 different ways. I've done one shape nesting here, where it's shape nested it with no rotation allowed, and it's fit as many copies on the page as it could. This is still an improvement over block nesting. With this, you're able to fit 3 or 4 more copies on the page. But if I allow rotation at 5-degree increments, you get this, which has about 10 more than block nesting would be able to fit in the same space. And this is just an A4 size media. So to do that kind of nesting, all one would do is select a job, right click on it, go to the shape nesting option, and just click fill page with copies of job. And that would get you this result. So those are the controls for the settings for shape nesting. So in order to allow the degree rotations or fit part in part, those kind of things, you can go to key properties and select the shape nesting property page. This has all the controls you need. So allow job rotation while shape nesting is what lets you determine the increments. If you allow it, 45 is default, because with that you can still save quite a bit. As you go lower and lower on the angles, it does result in more processing time, but obviously you can end up saving much more space. Nesting direction is which direction you want it to save space in. So obviously most people will stick with horizontal, and anyone using a roll will, as that'll actually save you media in the long run versus it. Vertical. Starting corner, it's not super relevant. For the most part, everyone will say upper left. It's if they have some special kind of media, or if their printer origin is different, they can adjust it. This is a big option. Use fixed page size. If this is enabled, you can set the area you want the either the copy spacing or the true shape nesting to nest the parts into. A lot of the times this will be enabled, and it's recommended you set it to the size of the media, and that will get you the best options. If this is disabled and you go to true shape nest, it will prompt you for this size. Spacing between objects, that's just how much allowance you need between objects in order for them to process correctly. And yeah, for shape nesting, that's it. That's everything. Simple to use, very powerful feature.
Thank you very, very much, Chris and Ted, for just going through some of those. I guess the takeaway for both the features that Chris was talking about. Obviously, from the next gen UI, two things. There's really the aesthetic benefit of it, which provides a more modern, up-to-date type of UI. And we all know that first impressions mean everything. So that when customers download our trial versions for the first time, the product looks like it's a lot newer than it did before. And obviously, there are a lot more options now that provide a selection in terms of which type of theme are you more comfortable in. Some people like light themes, some people like dark themes. So from an aesthetic standpoint, we're really, really pleased with the work that was done on it to bring the actual look and feel of the product up to the technology leadership standards that it also includes. So now there's a match. There's not a disconnect between the two. The other takeaway from next gen UI is obviously the streamlined kind of tool functionality and workflow. And basically, it makes it much more easier now to customize the panes whichever way you want and use all the different tools. So hopefully that will increase in simplified workflow and more productivity as well. The true shape nesting tool, we've always had the block nesting, which Chris showed, obviously. And let me share my screen here with you one more time. There we go. The true shape nesting tool, obviously, some of the examples that Chris showed illustrate the fact that you can actually save, it looked like the examples, Chris, that you showed, anywhere from about 30% up to 50% savings on material, which is huge when you're doing a variety of different types of production, whether it be wide format, whether it be roll-to-roll type of direct-to-film scenarios or what have you. So really two great tools in the dot release that are added to make the product even more powerful. Now, we'll go on to, I apologize. Let me see, my screen froze here. There we go. Here we go. Pricing. So you're all probably asking, are there any pricing changes? Are there any upgrade fees for it? Obviously, because this is a dot release, first and foremost, all customers using the Digital Factory version 11 package currently will be automatically updated at no additional charge. It was part of the version 10 or older upgrade fee to version 11. They will receive the version 11 update at no additional charge. I know that Chris mentioned it earlier, but really important to note, because some of you are probably wondering, don't worry, the UI will not change during the update for legacy customers. So we know that some customers have their preference. They don't like change. They want to keep it. Don't worry, there won't be a deluge of tech support calls based on that. It's all going to remain as part of the same user interface. So the update will not change their user interface. Very important to know. As Chris mentioned, all new trial versions going out the door and new packages will by default have the new next-gen user interface set up. But it is quite easy to go back and forth between what we call the classic user interface and the new user interface. Customers will have that option as part of this release. There will be no additional change in upgrade price from version 10 Digital Factory or older up to version 11.1. So all of the pricing that you currently have and price lists that you currently have are all exactly the same. We do have a few policy changes, two policy changes. One that impacts the direct-to-film edition only. Many of you know that in the past, our wide format direct-to-film edition had a variety of different add-on drivers, and they were not all included within that package. It was very manageable in the early days of direct-to-film when we only had, a few dozen drivers within the package. But as the market grew and our support for virtually any printer you can find on the market was created, it became a very unmanageable process from an order processing standpoint. So it doesn't impact the direct-to-film desktop edition at all, because all of the drivers within that category were already included in the package. But in the wider format standard direct-to-film edition, there will no longer be all of the add-on optional drivers that were needed to be selected at time of either order placement or order processing included that way. They were all going to be included except for the OEM drivers that are specific to various OEM partners. Obviously, the benefits for dealers, it'll be much easier placing orders. You won't have to have your people remember to specify what drivers need to be included in a particular package. And from an order processing standpoint, our order processing people are extremely happy with us for making this change, because it simplifies their life and eliminates potential licensing errors that end up in tech support calls either to you or to us. So overall, this is a much needed change and will simplify everybody's lives and make the product less mistake-free from a driver standpoint. It will be effective as of next week. Many of you have been getting those types of packages now as well anyhow. Another one that we've been speaking to, and you should have all received email notification of, and you can ask your sales development manager if you have any additional questions on it. But product delivery policy changes. We have been trying to phase out our dongle delivery for some time now. We have in certain instances where dongle delivery was required, and so we maintained it. But as of October 1st as well, all new packages and dongle replacements will be provided as activation codes only. So again, a great deal of benefit. I mean, aside from the packaging costs and being a more green-friendly way of delivering our product, again, dealers will no longer have to decide whether it's dongle or activation code and specify, because by default, it's going to be activation code. Makes life easier and less mistake-free from an order processing standpoint. For the customers, they don't have to wait for a dongle to be shipped to them anymore. So there is no cost any longer for shipping charges. Dealers don't have to stock dongles any longer. The benefits are just too many to mention, but it's obvious that digital download delivery as well as activation code type licensing has been used by many other software vendors for years now. We just felt it was time for us to move into that direction as well. So those are really the two primary policy changes that will take place as of Monday of next week. And then lastly, sales and marketing support. We've been having our marketing team work very diligently over the last month and a bit to make certain that all of our marketing support materials are, available to our dealers as well as end users. They are all in final stages of production this week. And so obviously you will all be receiving release notes as you normally do alongside the product. We have trained our staff on it. We're obviously doing our dealer webinars today. We have a few today. And then all of the outreach that you see, I won't go through all of them, but the outreach will begin, as I'd mentioned earlier, on the 4th of October. There are also videos available that are basically very solid descriptions of some of the features that both Chris as well as Ted went through earlier today. And then as we did with the version 11 release, Vincent, our digital marketing manager, will be providing a selection of dealer assets. Obviously, there's not a lot of change. We are having a new What's New brochure, but most of the other materials are being rebranded currently right now from our CADlink legacy pre-acquisition branding over to the new Fiery branding. So you'll see you'll be receiving over the course of the next month or so a variety of new updated brochures. The content and the messaging really does not change that much because the value and the benefits remain the same, but there will be a new look and feel to it that is consistent with our entire overall Fiery corporate branding look. So yeah, that's basically it. Price lists are being updated. You will receive new price lists. if you do request any special type of content assistance or email blast assistance, as always, please reach out to your sales development manager. They're always there to help. And as you know, for years, we have always provided our dealers with whatever assistance in terms of assets or content that is required, whether it be for your websites, whether it be for emailers, and we encourage that. Please ask us. We can turn it around quite quickly and get it over to you. So that's basically it. We're staying on time, hopefully. We're actually a little bit ahead of time, which is very highly unusual for any presentations that I normally do, but we thank you for your time, and just wondering if there are any questions out there. I don't know, Vincent, if any questions came through on the chat or directly to you, or we can open it up as well for any questions that you may have, either for myself on a commercial standpoint or on a technical. We'd be happy to answer any technical questions as well, with Chris or Ted being able to do that.
For sure. So like we said at the start, if you have any questions, there should be a Q&A tab somewhere in your Teams window. Just go ahead and we'll work through them. Before we get started on one of the ones that's in the Q&A tab, one of the ones that we did get, I'm not sure if we covered it or not, but just to reiterate it, as good as the new UI is, I think it's a massive improvement and it's leaps and bounds ahead of everything. You're going to inevitably have one or two customers who's going to say, I can't handle this and I need it to go back to the way it was. So just to go through that, it is possible to switch back to the new UI with just a few clicks. I can let Ted or Chris speak to that more, but it's very straightforward to do. I think you will find that more and more users won't want to do that. The new UI, like I said, it's a night and day difference, right? So, but just in case anybody does ask you that question, it is a very simple switch. So we'll get started with some of the ones from the questions here. So the first one that we got is, can I create full ICC profiles with the Nix Mini 3?
I can answer that one, sure. Yep, absolutely. That functionality has existed for a little while. There's two versions of PMC. So there's a light version that supports the Nix devices only, and then the full version, which has a full suite of the higher end profiling devices. But yes, you can create a full ICC, ink limits, linearization, and ICC profile with the Nix device, with the only limitation being the Nix only supports CMYK and white. So if you have a printer with spot colors in it, like orange or green or whatever, you need to have the full PMC, and you need an X-Rite or Barbary device to do that. But most direct-to-film machines are CMYK with white these days, so it covers most things.
Okay, we have another question that asks, can you rotate the job to save media in the layout manager as a feature? So that would be feeding the long edge first.
Chris, do you want to answer that one, or I'm not certain I quite understand the question, but
when importing a job, you can have it automatically rotate on import to any rotation degree. I don't think at this time anyway, we sort the jobs between whether or not rotating it would decrease the length of the job. So we could feed long edge first every time.
I think that's what the question was asking, is automatically rotating to the landscape. So I guess that's on import. Would it automatically rotate it?
You can set an automatic rotation in the media setup if that's kind of what you'd like. Like that's not even just shape nesting does that. You can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Chris? Do you want to throw in there?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think and just to add to that as well, I think not sure if this was the question. I too am not quite clear on the exact question, but if you're asking whether or not the queue setup can be preset in terms of automatically having specific nesting parameters on it, the answer is yes. So it doesn't have to be done as on each job or each gang of jobs that you're doing. That's correct, right, Chris?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Another question asks, can I create a custom media layout with 2 print locations in a sheet mode?
I think this would be templates. It sounds like. So if you're asking if you can have on a sheet, if you can have 2 specific spots where jobs are always going to be printed, I think. Yeah, you could set up a template media that would have, if you wanted every job that gets imported on this sheet to be in the top left corner and the bottom right corner, for instance, you could set up templates that would import in that way.
Our templates feature is actually very widely used across a variety of digital print applications. And there are videos available for it as well on how it's used on our YouTube channel as well.
Another question asks, will the new desktop driver package support the oddly 13-inch printer? Yesterday, my customer was told you need the full version to drive this printer.
We have, we literally have hundreds of printers that we've added. That one, Vincent, if you can note who asked that question, let's have a quick look on the driver list just to validate. If it's 13, generally speaking, if it's 13 inches, it would be supported in the desktop, but it really also, there are a few variables that determine what package the printer is included in, including what the overall printer sells for as well. So we'd be happy to answer that question, but before we provide incorrect information, let's have a look at where it resides, and we'll go from there, and we can get back to you, and we'll email you, either Vincent or myself will email you or just message you that response. But theoretically, it should be in the desktop edition.
Okay. Sorry, there was a follow-up to the nesting sort of question. And I think it's still asking that, yeah, will it automatically nest based on like the true shape style of trying to save the most amount of media instead of just sort of like rotating, right? Like, can you set it up so that it automatically, every time you import something, is saving you media?
So yes, you can. If you set up a queue to import with the layout type to be auto nest, such that it automatically nests all the jobs in the queue every time one's imported, and you set up in Layout Manager. Do you guys mind if I grab the screen?
No.
Okay. So the 2 options you're looking for are in Layout Manager, select Allow Job Rotation when block nesting. This will let the auto nesting feature rotate the jobs on import. And then in the queue layout, or make sure the layout mode is set to auto nest. You can do that from the queue import defaults pop-up, or in the old queue, you can do it in the queue tab. And if it is like that, when you import a job, it will lay it out such that it uses the least amount of space possible. So normally, Disney's Stitch would be standing upright. But you'll see on import, it has rotated the job to save the most amount of space.
Thank you, Chris.
A question asks, is Digital Factory going to replace the VPM in SignLab Pro?
So the Digital Factory version, yes, as part of the roadmap for the next SignLab release, the new VPM will be included in it as well. We have no timeline just yet for it. I believe it was the end of this calendar year, but no specific timeline, but stay tuned. We'll definitely provide you with that information.
Not seeing any more questions coming in just as of yet. Yeah, I think that's about it for now. So, like I said, this session was recorded. Everybody on this list will be getting a copy of this recording starting next week. You'll also have links to some of the stuff that we talked about today. So some of the new brochures, some of the new videos, anything you can need to start, moving forward with this new update.
Well, thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you, everyone. We promised we wouldn't go over. We didn't for a change. So thanks again for your participation. We really appreciate your support and all your sales efforts of our products. And we really hope that that you're impressed with the Digital Factory version 11.1 release. Thanks again. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Take care. Bye.